So today we're going to be exploring the 2 reasons for why China's Bitcoin backflip has just progressed and accelerated, and we're going to be exploring why the largest nation state in the world who tried to kill Bitcoin in 2021 could just be laying the groundwork to actually embrace Bitcoin. So of course, the 2 reasons we're going to discuss today is one, an international reason that I'm sure most of you guys are probably sick of hearing about. Everybody talks about the BRICS and the de-dollarization, and yes, we're going to briefly touch on that, but I'm far more interested about the domestic reason that I believe I have uncovered surrounding China that I believe will drive China to actually potentially reversing their Bitcoin backflip. So first, let's start off by looking at the big news of the week. Why has China accelerated their Bitcoin backflip? Well, just this week, the Chinese court system came out and they said, look, we are actually going to continue to regard Bitcoin and crypto as legal property in the country. And this could be a little bit of a head scratcher because yes, this is the same Chinese court system that is currently being told what to do by the CCP, the same CCP who actually banned Bitcoin in 2021. So what's actually happening in China? Well, we can see here all throughout 2022, there were actually a number of different cases in Chinese courts where they actually deemed Bitcoin and crypto to be regarded as legal property despite the CCP ban in 2021. And this is a little bit of a head scratcher, but things get even more interesting when we consider the fact about Binance, okay? Binance is the world's largest exchange around the world. And what if I told you that 20% of the trading volume on Binance actually came from China, the same China that banned Bitcoin in 2021? So let's add a little bit more color or maybe add some numbers behind that 20% figure, okay? Chinese traders within the country are actually buying and transacting $90 billion worth of transaction volume every single month on Binance. Now that is absolutely ridiculous. And that's nearly as interesting as my favorite fun fact surrounding China. And that is the fact that they are still the world's 2nd largest Bitcoin miner in the world. Today, they have around 20% of the global Bitcoin mining hash rate, which really does begin to ask us, what is going on in China? Why is Beijing actually giving Hong Kong their silent blessing to become a global crypto hub? That's right. This is something we talked about a little bit earlier on in 2023. We explored Southeast Asia's secret Bitcoin plan, and we kind of looked at the fact that Hong Kong was trying to become this global hub. And recently we had more and more news come out of Hong Kong saying that there's more Bitcoin and crypto businesses moving there to open up business. So this is where things begin to get really interesting. What are the reasons for why China could hypothetically be making these moves to actually soften their stance on Bitcoin? I'm not saying China is going to make Bitcoin legal tender tomorrow. I'm just saying, hey, look, these are 4 or 5 very interesting data points that have transpired in the past 12 months. What is going on? Does it have to relate to their domestic bombshell that I believe is going on in the country? I believe it does, and we're going to get to China's real estate market shortly. But I want to first talk about the international reasons for why China could be softening their stance on Bitcoin, okay? We all know the news. China was the world's largest US Treasury holder until they began aggressively selling their treasuries in 2021. We can see from this chart here that China's actually sold around $300 billion of US treasuries in the past 2 years alone. That is absolutely outrageous. And this even predates Russia's invasion of Ukraine, okay? This trend of China selling US debt has only accelerated since Russia had all of their $600 billion of reserves, I believe, frozen by the United States. Now, this discussion surrounding China's international need for Bitcoin is even more timely because earlier in the week, the G20 nations actually met, and they all met except for one. Of course, that one was China. China decided not to go. They essentially said, look, we don't care. We're not part of the G20 anymore. We're going our own way. We're the BRICS. That is obviously not what China said. I am paraphrasing, but China didn't attend. And it's really interesting because the United States went to that meeting and they were very interesting. They made some very interesting moves and announcements. They essentially tried to dangle money in front of countries all around the world saying, look, come back to America. Don't worry about joining the BRICS. We're going to set up all of these international trade routes and you guys are going to benefit from it. We can see here Biden is already trying to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars trying to create these new trade plans and trade routes to rival China's Belt and Road Initiative. And America was actually trying to pitch Saudi Arabia in particular. Again, I didn't watch the entire weekend's worth of footage from the G20, but as I understand it, they were trying to say to Saudi Arabia, hey, look, we can actually set up some trade routes through your country. It could be good for you. And now this is very interesting because Saudi Arabia has just joined the BRICS nation, okay? The BRICS nation has just expanded. I think they added 6 to 8 different countries recently at their annual meeting. Saudi Arabia was one of them, and America is not done. America has not broken up with Saudi Arabia yet. They want Saudi Arabia back on the petrodollar system. But China, as well as all of these other BRICS countries, they're out. They're opting out. They're saying, look, we've had enough with the US dollar. So I believe this is potentially an international reason that China needs Bitcoin. They need a new reserve asset. They held over $1 trillion of US treasuries at the peak. Okay, they only hold around $700-800 billion now. Maybe they're looking for a new reserve asset. We can see that gold priced in the Chinese yuan is actually breaking out to new all-time highs as we speak. So we can see that some of that money must be flowing into gold. Would it surprise you if a little bit of that was flowing into Bitcoin? I don't know. I'm going to let you guys do the speculation down below, but let's start talking about a domestic reason for why China could potentially need Bitcoin. Now, I've heard many people call Bitcoin a superior store of value asset to real estate, okay? Real estate has been hyper monetized over the past 50 years of this fiat era, okay? We can see here that interest rates have been dropped from around 18 to 19% where they were in the 1980s, essentially all the way to zero before we had the fastest interest rate hiking schedule in history by central banks last year. But we all know what this did to property prices. We can see here that the average home in Sydney, Australia, for example, it was less than 20,000 Australian dollars in the 1970s. But today it's well over $1.5 million. And let me tell you, that is not the 2% inflation that our governments are going to claim that we have been living under for the past 50 to 60 years. So we all know real estate is a great store of value, but China, they understand this more than most people because of the 1.4 billion Chinese people, they store 70% of their net worth in real estate, in property. That's right. Most people have at least 2 homes in China, and this is more than most people around the world. But this is all fine when property prices are going up and to the right. But what happens to your faith in your net worth when property prices begin to go down a little bit? What happens when property prices begin to absolutely crash? Well, that is exactly what has recently happened in China. Last month, their real estate market in the major cities actually declined 9% in 30 days. Now, that actually represents an $8.1 trillion wipeout of wealth in only 30 days. And it really is concerning because Chinese real estate market is the largest asset class in the entire world. So if you want to learn a little bit more about China's crumbling economy and what it could mean for Bitcoin, we did record a video on this one only a day or so ago. If you want to watch that one, you can find a link to that video right there. And with all that said, hope you enjoyed this one. Let us know in the comments down below. Are we watching a Chinese Bitcoin backflip? Are we on the money or are we off the money? You guys let us know, and I will see you all in the next video.